All right, good morning. 19 January. Let's see what happens when I do these things. My head's always half out of the picture. Enough of that. There was a boxer once upon a time named, probably still alive, James Bone Crusher Smith. It's up in North Carolina. How do you get a nickname like Bone Crusher? Using your hands with gloves on. You crush bones. And he was a great fighter. So I'm just using a goofy analogy to tell you the antithesis of that is me. And I'm going to crush your head with information here to make you go, where did this man come from? Because I don't know. All I do is get information, and as opposed to being stupefied by it, oh, angels are extraterrestrials, you have to scratch your chin and say, hang on, how do I fit in this game? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to John 17:22. I'll do some finger pointing. I'm talking to a Boone. Give them what we have, so they may be one as we are one. So let's be one, and let's learn about some good stuff, because we're good people, and we're positively motivated, and I need to commence my briefing. Here we go. So, before I begin, I'd like to thank our Creator with all the gratitude from 3.1 through the blast off of 3.7, converting to 4.1 in heartfelt love. So the subject of this briefing, it will end up as a general topic for the day, likely in two parts, although I may be able to nail most of it here in this primary part because of the color commentary that I'll do along the way that may equal everything that is intended to be explained. Although there's much about the blood, so the general topic is Rh negative blood and the Anunnakis tie to that. Now, Sam the Illusionist, who's on YouTube, just did a recent channeling where he learned about David Icke, who's he's a known celebrity on YouTube who has been outing everything for a while. Like, you go back to the earliest disclosures on Zachariah Sitchin, who will be a part of this presentation. I'll remember to throw his name out. As a blood drinker, a Draco blood drinker, David Icke was like a young man and interviewed some, servant who had been captured, who was just coming out and telling everybody, oh yeah, David Icke was at the ceremony. And this is the man who cracked the Sumerian tablets. So this briefing is going to be fascinating. It is. Okay. So I'm going to put things in a time context, and then I'm going to introduce the concept of Rh negative along the way, and I'm going to tie it into some soul tapestry, have some discussion about it, but then I'm going to illuminate you on what we're talking about here in terms of the best intent of divinity to play in the game. Fallen angels are extraterrestrials. So you got to kind of go there and hang with me. This is going to be great. Okay, here we go. So timeline first. All right, we're still going. So just to go way back, we're talking about blood and genetic modification thereof. So I'm going to talk through it. I don't want to say anything that would be scientifically incorrect, but there will be a level of speculation because I'm not a scientist. However, when I get done explaining this to you, you're going to say, I really can't argue with them. All right, so as we know, if you choose not to believe this, go back and turn on CNN. but roughly there, 499, almost a half a million years ago, round, Adam and Eve occurred. Not two people, there were tons of people by then. We all got transported. The Neanderthals were transported from Maldek. The O positives that are along for the ride, being beaten around by everybody, were transferred to Earth 800,000 years ago. And due to lack of progress, this event occurred. Okay, let's do this. This is old, but focus up on the Armenia. You see it? Over here, Armenia. Okay, that's roughly Turkey, Black Sea. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. This is when the Elohim did the first GMO action on Earth to try and teach humans how to not run from fire and get married and have children and do good things a half a million years ago. All right, so I'm fast forwarding now. That all occurred. These 138 GMO'd up humans, none of whom were a product of sexual intercourse. They were energetically upgraded to have high self-wisdom. So you can do a soul swap in order to make it happen. Because we're dealing with our creator here and progress. So just as many soul swaps and walk-ins and everything else have occurred over time, this was an event where 169 each, men and women, were given the high self, whoa, here we are and here's our friends, and let's set up teaching in Turkey and Armenia, schools of thought on how to be human and how to love one another and be positive and all the things. And over time, we'll learn the decision was made that they all bit the apple. Now, not all of them may have. Maybe there's some that are in caves someplace and they're the two witnesses. It could be. I don't know. But I do know that one by one or all together, they said, okay, we've done enough generational training through time, and we need to bite it out and meld back into the rotation. Whether that was a pre-intended mechanism to speed things up and kind of get the angelic vibe into the human body, that I don't know, but it's interesting to speculate. So now we're up to 2100 BCE. This is all testimony, angelic testimony through channeling. Okay, Sam the Illusionist is the guy who's allowed us to be able to have this insight. And he's the product of a soul swap walk-in. So the same man that you see from 5 years ago is the same guy telling you things and smiling and has a mother, and he's just got a new senior rider that's got him solved all his stuff, which occurred for these people, and then they bid it out. And to transition to modern times as channeled by Sam, this was either Michael or Metatron that told us about this. That roughly 2100 BCE, 13 around Egypt, Africa got genetically modified as volunteers to go to inner Earth and coach the Agarthans to get rid of the reptiles out of inner Earth, and they were chased off the surface. So they only can come here in human meat suits under, as cast members in the show, sort of. But I want to keep on a timeline here. So go back this far and go back further than that for the recruiting, the movement to inner Earth through Giza to get down there, introduction to the Agarthans, a part of their fabric, the time it took to coach them, identification of the enemy forces. We're talking about something that probably took 3 months. No, it took a while to do that. However, they worked down there, but they had success. The Hopi had success. Those blessed Indian humans had success, and they were then escorted up to the three mesas, and they built it with their fingers by in meditation. The 13 of them went, hey, let's lay it out in glory to Orion, up in the belt. You know, that's where we're going with this story, because that's where our creator is. So that all occurred in that time frame. And in parallel to that, notice these dates are not too far apart. The time that was given by Sam for this is kind of the David Icke introduction story, if you will, where the element of Nibiru and the Anunnaki story is introduced to our surface as a real existing event. So angels are extraterrestrials, and these are aliens with bird heads or whatever they look like. They're not human, but they're able to shapeshift. And amongst them, there were a few positives. Remember now, these are not human beings, so get away from RH negative and RH positive. There's a collective on Nibiru that is from Orion. It's a pirate ship of a collective, and there were positives on there that were on deck and do whatever they do on the wild ride. Forget blood. It's Star Wars in a planet that's got a free reign now. Zachariah Sitchin said, hey, it's got an orbit, it's got 30 something, every so age often, it comes ripping in. Okay, so here's from a previous briefing. Here's Earth. All our planets do this, right, in a rough orbit. The allegation is that Nibiru goes all the way back and comes all the way in, and when it comes whipping by, that's what caused the floods. They get proximity to come and go, and then away it goes again. And it may have done that. But Lucifer, broke everything loose, and he's floating around way the hell out there. So we can catch up to that. That was 12,500 years ago. But I'm telling you, in terms of when the planet wants to be where it is by the energy management, it's in proximity, and floods come and everything else. So these few positives crashed down, and where did they go? Just look at this map, okay? And look at, let me throw the place names here. I'll read them for you. We're talking about Samaria. I've got a few maps to show you. These things overlay on each other. Samaria, Acadia, Assyria, and Babylon. So, this is the area that we're talking about right now. Here's Persia. You can see Babylon. From Moses is down here. You see Assyria. There's Armenia that I pointed out before. So this is modern day Iran coming through to get down through the Caucasus Mountains, and the Aryans are in here as well. I'm going to talk about them. So just to show another map and fly through this pretty quick, same Wayback Machine. Here's where I pointed out Urdu and This is all this is Abraham country. So then you got Acadia and these ancient places. Here's Egypt, and here's where a lot of ancient things happen. You're looking at dates here that they swag, so you're in this window of the Wayback Machine. Okay, so I'll stay on. Let's see if there's another good map to show you anything. This is just another view. Ancient. You see Urdu, Sumer, Akkad. So you see, here's the north end of the Persian Gulf. Whoop! They all lay over each other up there. And let's not forget that you're dealing with Israel, and everything is over here. Here's Jericho. So you're in the window, the proximity window. Remember the fallen. Okay, we're back here. This is Israel. The fallen are up here on Mount Hebron. This is Assyria, Syria, Turkey, where they just pushed all the Muslims through to Europe. All right, but let's get back to this timeline here. So when they crash landed, now I'm talking about Nibiru now. The humans were here already as Neanderthals, and they were, They were giddy-upped because they had been Adam and Eve, and they, this impression that they were primitive. Well, okay, everything is relative, but these people figured out how to make boats, and we're talking about humans that could probably eat 3 meals a day and knew roughly when the sun came up it was time to do things. So these guys, they're falling off this planet and completely enlightened. Remember, we're all God, but we choose the veil of forgetfulness so that we can go through our slicing and dicing and then reassemble now and be amazed at what's going forward. That's the path that we chose, is particle chips of divinity that are going to reassemble together and just do new things that I won't be able to write down on this paper because they're multi-dimensional. But I'm going to get into some dimensions here that'll be interesting. What did I say here? Oh, so the intent when the observation occurred of the fallen was to improve stability and society. Now this is from the Nibiru now. This is not the Elohim observing and making this happen. This is hundreds of thousands of years later from Nibiru. So those aliens crash landed in these areas, and we know this. I'm going to tell you all about them. These places, I just hit them on the map. So because of their superior understanding of everything, they ended up, there were a few positives now, and go with a guy like Ike and throw in really smart, positive, whatever you need. So they ended up being worshipped by the humans because they were ahead of them. They also had genetic modification power, okay, in order of the human beings. So you're talking about an angelic resonance that goes back. Remember, Nibiru is a pirate ship, and it's got the Dracos on it from Orion, from the beginning, and all the keys about humanity and who's doing what to who. There's knowledge there that just needs to be shared. So now you're on the All-Star Planet ship, and it's a madhouse. And a few of these positives cut loose to get the hell out of there. These are the positive ones now, by the way. And they say, okay, we got to do, I'm going to explain this to you, the 440 version of 432 is what we need to try and get done here. Because this is all 440 land. You know, the concept of a Self-Wagyu, anything, for dear God's sakes, it's all Nibiru madness. Just listen to the way Ike talks to this day. But he's a good guy. He was here to, that man he's precious. In the face of the madness, he was out on the freaking, they made him walk the plank on Nibiru, and he turned around and said, screw you. And this kind of stuff happens, so they're very bold. So, but on the dark side, on the negative side, as to what, it always starts out good. But during the good part, some of these attributes as to what's happening with what they did, what they hijacked. They basically activated the pineal gland through insight and knowledge and wisdom and freaking tasing. However they did it, they created human hybrids through knowledge and intercourse or whatever they needed to do in order to inject the alien into the human. Get that. So fallen angels came on to the daughters of men. Now the Elohim didn't come on to the 6969. I guarantee you that. But in this case, there might have been some variations to what occurred because they just went for it. Lucifer had hijacked everything. The moon was in place. They had positional authority to do what they wanted to do, and they did it. So in this case, with the best of intents, all things having been degenerated from there, these abilities were introduced to humanity. Look at them. These are now hybrid humans that have some special abilities. And what do they equal? Well, they're sub-gods. They can shapeshift, they can change color, they can read minds, and they can teleport. As well as that, They have 10 times the normal lifespan of an average human, just by virtue of their ability to manage themselves and pot it out. Call this 1,000 years if you want, because a normal person lives to 100. And then look at a guy like, pick somebody that's out there that's going, man, hey, what's happening there? And I don't know that we could identify any. I'll say if you went and spoke to Kim Goguen and asked her to pin you down somebody from the Dragon family, Henry Kissinger-esque, Rockefeller-esque, you may start to tap into this. Because when Rockefeller stands at the Vatican and tells you that it's going to be the 440 to the world, he is speaking on behalf of this and presidents and the rulers of everything when that occurs. So I'm taking alien space talk and I'm humanizing it for you with what I'm telling you right now. With the abilities that these ascended humanoid, they are the Anunnaki. That's why they're called what they are. You have to apply names to these, and I would dare to do it, because I know that I would be pretty darn close to right. Just realize that when the Bureau takes off, it's out of here now. And even though they can teleport, I mean, hey, you got to work your day here and be around, and Mars is closer. So everything's proximity, because Nibiru is, it's out of the right now. I mean, I'll tell you where it's at later. Because here's the other part I want to tie into this. So I've set the stage time-wise to where we're at with everything I've said so far. And that the Hopi accomplished their thing, the Anunnaki dropped into the Gulf, and they stirred things up over there and made progress that I'll talk to you about. Enlil and Inky and that kind of stuff. So, as we know, in 1010 BC, David became king. Just to throw, we are in this area, are we not? Assyria, Babylon, you're closing in. Mount Hebron, Israel, boom, you're there for purposes of, hey, he's running around now. David's a boy running around. A boy, he's got to be O positive. Just to hit you with the blood types is, of course, there's positive and negatives, and you have 4. O, which is the original, remember, O is original, just because, why not? And then there's combinations of decisions that were made to hybridize in some way, shape, or form, and add positive or negative to it. And this is the part I'm not prepared to talk about in detail, but it's all out there with the Basques and how these personality types you can map these to how, go to my man Robert from Athenian Gardens, he scientifically talks about all this. So it's almost like I don't need to, because I'm focused on the positive and negative. This is going to blow you away, guys. Well, maybe it won't, but it's true. So David's the king now in 1010 BC. He is killed. He in self-defense, obviously, he had the guts to drop Goliath. Somebody had to do it. He did it. All his men said, yea, verily, I'm with you. He's a human, running with humans. On the run to be a king, a human king. Amongst this, hey, this is stuff coming to get you. This is David, normal guy. He was a boy who became a man. And on his way to his kingship, he met, I'm just telling you what I know, okay? So take it for what it's worth. You've got Abigail, wife of Nabal, who was out of this madness, rich Jew. He dropped dead of a heart attack when David was going to come get what he needed for his men. And Abigail was wise enough and smart enough and loving enough to say, hang on, please, don't mess us up. Oh, her husband died already just from the news that this guy was coming. Because it's, there's divinity at play. But she was from Carmel. So you have to do traceability of Mary and royalty, because she was participating from England and Glastonbury, originally Isis. It's the royalty of our creator has a seat in the show. And you're looking at the traceability there, because we're never abandoned. So the Blessed Mother is a very important person. of course, being the mother of Yeshua. But let's get back to David. That's where it started at, from the lines of David. So in addition to that, yoo-hoo, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I'm taking a shower. I'm taking a shower. I know how to do in the sunlight. Woohoo! Hee hee! You looking at me, David? I don't need to teleport. He's going to invite me. Okay, so just go with that. And here's innocent David on his, monocular or whatever he's looking at from his tower going, wow! Oh my human goodness. How lovely. Can you come be my Garden of Eden? And she did. And so the rest is history. But allow me to explain that through that lust of, this was the wife of a married soldier of his, Uriah, who got put out to pasture and custard last standed intentionally by his commander-in-chief. So, but David's David. Do you forgive him? Was she that good looking that he got disarranged to the point where he had his friend put out to the field, and you don't think they were friends? I mean, the guy was a warrior, so take from it what you will, for purposes of understanding this story. So from Bathsheba dropped Solomon, and let me tell you what, 800 wives, and you want to let it out. The genie was released from the bottle with Solomon down in Egypt, and all the darkness through this tapestry that was present. I'm not saying it was limited here. I'm just saying that when the angels, who were still responsible to our Creator, Abun is going, all right, come on, what's going on down there, Seraphim? Okay, we got it. And so David proceeds accordingly, and after the Hopi accomplished their GMO feat and the three maces are dedicated, then he's born. Yeshua's born, 3 BC. So count it down from here. And I don't know when Bathsheba passed away. I don't know when Solomon passed away. All I know is this man was born in 3 BC on 9/11 under a 4-star conjunction that was backwards planned so that they could line it up in time for these two people to have sexual intercourse after asking them if they would volunteer. So what was produced was a non-GMO human being who went around and learned and taught. He had what he needed. He had Joseph of Arimathea to take him up to the Druids, and he got out. He busted this, and he went way over here to the Kush. That's where the Jews had been exiled to by then. And he studied with the Druids, so figure out where England is and get up there, because Joseph ran the navy for the Jews. He imported tin for the 440. He was an embedded warrior. So let me get through the rest of this slide. So we have a non-GMO product, and I'm just explaining down here what is it about an RH positive side of the house, regardless of the letter of the blood type, O, A, B, or whatever. If you're positive, if you've got that in your system, then automatically by Creator, preordained, hey, here's what came from Maldek, shall we say, has the antigens on the surface in the DNA in the type of the blood to in the form of protein cells. At that surface, they're fighting a war, and they're combating bacteria and virus. Okay, so I just want to make a point about my brother at this point as to what type of blood that he likely had. Remember now that human beings have recessive genes and dominant genes. So blue eyes tend to be recessive, but he was known to have blue eyes. Aryans have blue eyes, but they're known to be recessive. and I can't explain everything other than there are genetic predispositions that occur that still may be, the odds of producing the unexpected product out of a birth does exist. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that I am the father of children with positive blood types, both of which are different. I have twins, boy and a girl. And my wife was on the negative side, and yet both my children are positive. So I know from firsthand experience that these type combinations are as designed to produce a subsequent product. So my question as to whether or not Yeshua was O positive or negative, his blood is in possession because that's the Holy Grail. It was collected at the foot of the cross because it's very important, and it is because he's coming again in a fourth density appearance. And let's remember that he, to the extent that he had these abilities in love, you got the best version of him. Now, people didn't like that and it turned them off. I can't speak for them. But certainly some of these attributes that were given to Joe the 10-peg sub-god, you can bet your sweet life that this man had what he needed to go cruising and do what he needed to do. I guarantee you. My heart just gets so big thinking about what he carried and how he probably rolled along doing it. Like, why be concerned about it? Because we're all going to have to cross the bridge, and he did it. So this was the piece on the blood. So let me, I'll end up not staying on point. So what I'm doing now is I'm transitioning to what in the name of goodness were these. If we had Elohim, if we had Elohim up here and the seraphim and they took the 138 and said, okay, you guys, now be wise, go to Turkey, play it out, and then bite the apple. If that had all occurred, and though that was the status of humanity when these positive Anunnaki, departed the pirate ship and crashed down here, only 2,130 years before Christ, that's the year we were given, is when this kicked off. So you could make the argument that we didn't have negative blood types in existence before these guys came in here and did what they did. And that the hybridization of humans is only that recent in terms of the breaching of the rules of the game that have been progressively hammering down on our species to a point where, and they're coming to get us. So where are we though? I'm going to try and explain this roughly, objectively, so you get an idea about what they're attempting to do here on the 440 side of life. So just to get into the real world here, real world, there's Anu and Enki and Enlil. You hear people talking about them. They're in these documents. This is the code that I was referring to when these people said, hey, they're not doing things quite right here on this planet. Let's shape them up a little bit so we have some law and order going on, because they're a little bit too out of the box, having their own stuff, but we need to help that because they're fallen. And who are we talking about, by the way? Angels or extraterrestrials? Okay, they're on Nibiru now. They're just proxied out on Nibiru. And so it ranges from the Orion chopping block of Abraham, communism, Blitz, bam it, the humans with a sledgehammer. Wide range, the bombs of artillery from Stalin, the Ark of the Covenant, the Twin Towers, Miami, Al Jazeera, when Three Gorges Dam goes, the Ark of the Covenant, the Walls of Jericho, Joshua, the Red Sea parting. In addition, you've got the needle, Aryan, Hitler, the study of the human, where we only want the Planned Parenthood, and those others must. Well, we'll meet these ones down in New Swaziland. When they dig down, and nobody's watching, we'll have our meetings, and John Kerry will come when he needs climate change advice after Trump is elected. All right, my accent's getting messed up. These guys are master controllers. And these guys authored the Hammurabi Code that you will eye for that eye. You will tooth for that tooth, but we will have neighbors, will we not? So the Sumerian tablets, a little bit different, a little bit more educational, pointing back to that 800,000 year window. Wow, how'd they know that? And there's Inky. Let's introduce our characters, because there are many others, but we didn't throw Marduk in here. But Anu's the daddy. Inky is, and if we have a creator that's really attached to this, I don't know that we've hit it at Anu, shall we say. But there may be predecessory stuff in the tablets that maybe I'll go find a scientist who can tell me what it means. But those beings that Zachariah Sitchin, the blood drinker, and David Icke was able to out, we have these beings who are Enlil and Inky. So allow me. Anu's kind of like, he was along for the ride and watches everything go down. Go Uranus and go whatever, 3.1, just for words. This is your kabuki dance if there ever was one. I'm going to throw it out to you. So here's Yahweh in a name. This is the Jeffrey Dahmer of specimen collection, who wants his refrigerator full of just the right amount of stuff, so that for lunch he can have a head, for dinner he can have an eyeball, and if he goes on a diet, he may or may not. But that's Enki. Nothing more than Enki. Enki is the Ten Commandments. Enki is making sure humanity is taken care of. The value of gold, how we going to go mine it to help Nibiru. It's just masterful control, which is control of humans. From a blockage, false communism, Stalin, China, fake. Okay, that's Enki in essence. Enlil is a little more Aryan. Enlil's hungry. Enlil ain't got time for this. Enlil doesn't like the media, fake, and he's about ready to light it up and just freaking consume and get it done with, because he really hates them. So they gotta get chased out of the story in the Bible, because Enlil's hot to trot. Enlil wants to light the ovens, and Enlil wants to terminate all the humans. And Enki's going, wait a minute, my brother, what are we going to have for our next meal? We have to manage the harvest. So it's at that level of, they will, believe me, if they could, they would. But who would be left? Because there are human occupations going on here that are just trying to make it all work. So what's occurred here with the Anunnaki fallen? So I'm still on an RH negative pathway through Christ and everything. Notice where I was and where I am now. So you've got which is a city. Okay, can I point it out with this map? No. I'm going to stay pointed here until I have it. Okay, here it is. All right, northern tip of the Persian Gulf. There's You see Urdu and Okay. So, there's Jericho, a couple of days hike, right? So, what happened at Are we in the tribulation? Did Jupiter exit Virgo in 2017 in September 23rd of 2017? Well, it did. So there's a halftime. It's astrotheology now. Let me wind it around for you. We're in the tribulation. It's a 7-year period, which occurred when Revelation 12 came to pass, and the woman who was pregnant, the woman was Virgo, Jupiter was the baby, and the baby was hatched on 23 September on a 1260-day pathway to a halftime show. Okay? And two things occurred during the halftime show, which was in March, because you have 1260 literal days and you have 7 years divided in half. So it relates to roughly 7 March and 26-27 March. Weeks apart in March 2021. So Pope Francis of Abrahamic Code went to where the Ziggurat Temple is, to have a meeting. And Enki and Enlil trace to that. These characters that I spoke about from the Sumerian tablets originate from Abraham and So put it all together, quite simply. And this man, the day before, met with his combat woodpecker-lipped counterpart in Iraq, who was a part of Shia Islam. So that's the Iranian connection, but they're badass. I mean, this guy is not in the mood for anything other than to have a religious conversation and shake hands and come out fighting at some other point. But they're of the same cut of cloth, because they know where the reporting chain is here on the 440. So they know the Rockefellers, they know the ones of the bloodlines that are running around the planet. That's where the real news is. The G7, the CFR, where the real masterminded stuff